Hi there, Chris here with another fresh tip for you all. In this video, we are going to continue our work on Jain Zar from the Aeldari faction in Warhammer 40,000. And in this video, we are going to work on her little boomerang thingy, the tricycle or whatever it's called. We're just going to work on the blades as we've already kind of touched on the core and the handles. Get us started, we're going to use titanium white, yellow iron oxide, and phthalo blue green shade. These are all from Golden High Flow line. We're also going to use a dollop of matte medium from Golden as well. And these are all paints that are typically used in artist lines, but we're using them here for miniature painting just because. You can see we used about, I think it was 2 drops of white, 2 drops of yellow, 2 drops of blue, and a drop of our matte medium. And basically we're going to begin layering in this paint onto one side of the blades. And with this, I was kind of having a fun idea, and I thought, let's do the bottom portions of the blades in blue. Just kind of like what we've done on the rest of the model, or the themes of the model as it were, mainly concerning like the hair and the body, where we have mostly these blue tones, in the lower half of the model, and with magenta in the upper portions. Kind of a spoiler here for the rest of the video. We're going to use some phthalo blue green shade. We're going to slap a drop onto the palette. We're going to take a little drop of our mixture. This is kind of not even like 1-to-1, but it's predominantly the blue. We're going to add a few drops of airbrush medium. That's from Golden. That's just to thin it out. We could just as easily use water or anything like that, but I was using the airbrush medium just because I kind of like how it keeps the viscosity, surface tension of the paint nice and smooth. Now, with these paints, I will caution you that they do finish with a mostly glossy finish, and if you're not into that, I mean, you can always mix the matte medium in, or you can just hit it with a matte afterwards. It's really up to you, and it's kind of dealer's choice, as it were. As you may or may not be able to see, we are glazing in these transitions here. We're building towards a deeper blue, and I'm just kind of going about it in a non-metallic metal fashion, so the upper portions are getting darker. We're going to take a little bit more of our phthalo blue. We're going to add a couple drops of medium. That's all we're going to need. Just going to give that a quick little mix. Just pure saturated phthalo blue, and here you can see we're just layering it in. Again, we got thinner in there, and this is a transparency, so it's already very, very thin. Again, we're just looking for changes in value on that surface. We're just building towards a deeper blue, but we may want more contrast, so we may move to other colors as well to build up our deepest saturation of color. As we work our way around, you can see I lay it down. And if there's a little too much of a step or finished brushstroke or a line or anything like that, I usually come in and feather it out with a brush, or I'll come in and lay multiple layers down. We're going to take our phthalo blue and some raw umber hue. These are both transparencies. I'm going to slap a little onto the palette, and then I'm going to throw a couple drops of medium into it. And we're going to basically just use this and just create a slight finish to the transition that we created here. I also move along the entirety of the surface here just to give it a more unified appearance as we work our way through. Again, like I said, when I usually lay this down, I'm laying it down not too heavily, and if it is a little too heavy, then I just simply take my brush, clean it off really fast, and then feather it out and continue to push the color in the direction where I want it to build in a typical fashion in which we glaze when we are painting. We're always pushing that color to where we want it to build up and get more intense. Finally, we're going to come in with some carbon black. This is Golden High Flow, and we're just going to slap a little bit into our mixture, give it a quick mix. I think there's only 1 drop, and I mix it into a majority of the whatever was on the palette. I use just the dampness of the brush to thin the color out ever so slightly. I don't really want this color too thin, but I do want it fairly thinned out. And then I'm just laying this in pretty much at the very high points of these details here. And again, it's just to really push that contrast. And I also was considering moving along the spine of the blade, as it were, the dividing facet line that runs between each of the little blades of this thing. I don't know what it is, this boomerang thing. I'm going to keep calling it a boomerang thing because that's fun. As you can see, I lay the color down and then just simply feather it out and build it up as I see fit. And in a lot of areas, I didn't paint each one exactly the same. I just, kind of just chose and, ran with it, so to speak. We're going to use some phthalo blue, some yellow iron oxide, some titanium white. I'm going to slap 2 drops down. I'm going to slap 1 drop of blue and 1 drop of the yellow. Couple drops of medium just to thin it out, and we are basically going to mix this up, and we are going to lay in some highlights. This is a little bit brighter than the color we had started out with. The color we had started out with was basically more like a 1-to-1. It was 2 drops of each color. It was 2 drops of white, 2 drops of blue, 2 drops of yellow, whereas this is 2 drops of white, 1 drop of blue, and 1 drop of yellow. So it is considerably brighter, and so we are basically just glazing this in, and we're also going to do a little bit of edge highlighting on the edge of the blade, of course, as we work our way through. I don't bother laying in a highlight on the spine of the blade, as basically we have not laid our second color down, so we will move to that when we get to that area. Now, I also don't show the other side of the blade because it's kind of trickier. It didn't quite look as nice on camera, so I just basically concentrate on showing you guys what I was doing just from this one side. But rest assured, I am painting the other side of this weapon. Again, you can see it's just fairly straightforward because of the nature of this paint and because I have the thinner in it. When I'm laying this color down, I'm being very careful how I lay my brush strokes in, and because it's thinned out, it can be treated kind of like a glaze, but as we lay multiple layers down, we can build up a transition in those spaces. Next, we're going to add a little bit more titanium white. It's 2 more drops there. As you can see, no other mediums or glazes or anything like that necessary. And basically, we are going to just catch just the high points here on these blue sections. Now, when it's all said and done and I've completed the other color, I also come back and work on the this blue section again as well, and I retint and resaturate some of these areas, and basically we won't show that on camera here, but that is really what the process in which I go through as I'm continuing to work my way around these details. But as you can see from the bottom here, we have that blue running up, and it's looking really fun. Again, it's kind of a loose non-metallic metal effect. Next, we're going to start off with some titanium white, some transparent yellow iron oxide, and quinacridone red. These are all golden high flow line. The yellow and the red are transparencies, so they barely tint the white, as it were. Well, change the value, I should say. Tinting is a different process. We lay this down in a 2-to-1 sort of ratio, 2 of the white and 1 of the yellow and 1 of the red, and this is going to be our base color. And of course, we are going to lay 2 layers of this down onto each of these facets of the boomerang thingy here. And with this, basically, it is so that when you're looking at it from the top, it is showing most of those magenta tones, and when you're looking from the bottom, it's showing most of those blue, phthalo blue, green shade kind of tones from the bottom. And it's kind of a fun little thing to do when you're looking at this model directly from above it. You see all the magentas, and when you're looking at it from the bottom, you see most of those blues coming back at you. Again, I'm being fairly careful here, and of course we're only going to concentrate looking at the backside of this weapon, but I am painting both sides of this weapon as I'm working my way through. After I applied that second layer, we're going to come back in with some quinacridone red. We're going to apply 2 more drops. We're going to push this further saturated towards the red side of things, and we are going to begin glazing in our transitions, building in the opposite direction at which we had done with the blue side of things. Now, again, this is not a tried and true type of way of doing non-metallic metal. This is really more of a stylized approach, and I thought it would just look cooler if I did it this way, because basically if I did it in a non-metallic metal fashion, basically I would be pushing the darker tones to the high points on most of these areas versus pushing the deeper tone towards the opposite end, and which was previously established with the blue. Again, it's an aesthetics choice. When you're painting your models, again, the shorthand version of non-metallic metal is just simply build the darker points to the higher points of the surface, and give it a little bright edge highlight. We threw some more quinacridone red into the mixture, and this is a very fine glaze we're going to lay into these surfaces here. Basically, we're just going to lay these down, and if I do apply it a little too heavily, basically I come in, I wipe the brush off really fast, and then feather the transition out a little bit more till I like it. I do apply this more than once onto these surfaces to get a nice deep bright color going on. And again, I'm trying to concentrate more of that color towards the spine, the central part of each of those little blades. Next, we're going to take some carbon black, but we're not going to throw it into the mixture. We're going to slap a little bit onto our palette, take just a little bit into our brush because it does not take that much black to change the overall value of the color. And I want this to still be in that red side of the spectrum. And with this deeper tone, I'm basically going to push this very, very minimally into the extreme ends of each of these little faces. And again, like I said, if I apply a little too much color, I just simply come back in and feather that out and push that color. Like with all glazes, when we finish our brush stroke, the color builds towards a deeper color towards where we finish our brush stroke. So you can see that's why whenever you're watching these, when I'm doing these fine glazes, I'm always moving towards the extreme point of where I'm finishing that color. I think by now a lot of you guys are getting the handle of glazing when you're following along with these videos. And so with that final color, we're ready to continue on with some more. We're going to use some titanium white, some yellow iron oxide. We're going to slap these onto the palette. I also used the quinacridone red. I don't know why I didn't show it in the camera there. I use about 4 drops of the white, 1 drop of the red, and 1 drop of the yellow. We're going to give this a quick little mix, and basically we're going to use this as our highlighting color. And with this, I'm just going to build this up towards the brightest points of the blade, but I'm also going to do a little bit of an edge highlight along some of these facets of the detail here. And again, with this cutting edge, it's really just basically where I'm building the brightest tone up, and then I'm building an edge highlight pushing towards that brighter point. And again, when you're using these really bright highlights like this, especially when they're moving from a dark area into a lighter area, that's where we get that impression of that non-metallic metal, where this is basically a brighter surface or a glossier surface, and it's reflecting more of that light in a true metallic type fashion. But as you can see, we are pretty much done there. I think I had 1 more drop of white and I did a final highlight, but after that, we're just basically going to touch up some areas, and you can see there I slapped some matte medium on it. I basically used Lamian medium just to knock that shine off the paint. But there it is. That's her Blade of Destruction, or no, Silent Death. I think it's a Silent Death. Either way, that's it. It's our boomerang thing. Hopefully you guys enjoyed that one. Next, we're going to move on to finishing off her base and see where we go from there. Big thank you to my patrons. Without their support, these videos would not be possible. If you're considering Patreon support, click the link in the description below and you'll be taken off to a magical website called Patreon, where there are varying tiers of support. And a huge thank you to everybody who does. Take care of those brushes and they will take care of you.